It was great to see the data family in Sydney Tableau user group. Thanks to all who were able to make it to the session, and for those who didn't, don't worry at all, as we always look after our own. So here is my full session with all the Tableau tips and tricks that I shared during the session. So let's jump straight into it. Welcome back. This is Gurpreet from DataViz Canvas, and in today's session, I'm going to walk through the Tableau tips and tricks that I presented recently in the Sydney Tableau user group. So let's start with our first tip of the day. That is, drill down using set actions. So in this particular tip, I'm going to show how to drill down using set actions. So when we click on any category, it will drill down into subcategories, but only for that particular category. So this is quite useful when we are working with tables where we have a big data set, and when we use the default hierarchy property of Tableau, the entire section or entire categories expand or drill down at the same time. And it's really hard for user in terms of the user experience. They have to use the scroll bar to go to a particular category or particular value in a dimension to see that particular value. So in that case, this particular tip is quite handy and quite useful. We can simply click on a category value or a dimension value, and it will drill down the adjacent or the corresponding subcategories or the subdimension values. So let's see how we can achieve this by using set actions. So in this case, I have already created a table where I'm showing the sales by year for each of these categories. And as you can see here, we have already a hierarchy for categories and subcategories. And by default, when we click on this plus sign, you will see all these categories get expanded at the same time. But we don't want that in this case. We want to expand or drill down one category at a time. So how we can achieve this? So first of all, I will create a category set. We will simply go to a category, right click and create a set. So in this case, I have already created a category set. So I will right click that and edit it and show you what it means. So here we will first of all give the name to the category set. So in this case, category set is the name. And from the options, we can select all of them or none of them. So in this case, I will unselect all of them. And I just wanted to show you, once we do that, I will bring this category set into row shelf. And you will see all of these values in this category set is out. This means that none of the value is selected. So if, for example, on the right hand side, I have brought the category set as well, if I select filter here, you will see the filter value in the category set is shown as in. So we can select multiple values and it will show in for those particular values in the set. So that means we have selected those values. So let's uncheck them and let's create a calculated field of subcategories where I'm going to say if the category set, then show me subcategories. What it means is if we are selecting a particular value in a category set, then show me subcategories, corresponding subcategories. Otherwise, show me blank value. So now let's bring this subcategory into row shelf as well. And you will see right now nothing is selected because we haven't selected any value in the category set. All of them are out. So let's see what happens when we select furniture in the category set. You will see all the subcategories expanded for furniture, because we have selected furniture in the set. It's showing it as in, and all the corresponding subcategories are now expanded. So that's the basic concept how it will work. But we want it, when we click on this particular value, we want it to expand. In order to do that, we have to create a set actions. For that, we will go to worksheet and go to actions. And once that window is open, we will create a set actions for that particular value. So here you can see by default, this entire workbook is selected. I want this sheet to be selected, and I will go to add action and I will select change set value. Once I do that, we will then add the values into that corresponding selection criteria. So let's see how we can do that. So once that window is open, we will give the name to the set action. So here I will say category set action. And the source sheet, we have selected tip 1 demo, so that's fine. In the target set, I will go to category set and select that one. And there are two options here. When running the action, what will happen or what we want it to do. So in this particular scenario, I would like it to assign the value to a set. And when clearing the section, I want to remove all the values from the set. So once we do that, we will press OK and press OK here. And now you will see when I click on furniture, only the corresponding subcategories are expanded. So here you go. With set action, you can see this happening, which is pretty cool. But as I have shown you in the previous example, we have these images as an arrows. When I select that one, it expands and collapses. So that way we can add the corresponding images in front of categories. So what we can do in this case, we will create a calculated field where we will say if any value in the category set is selected, then we will have to put this image. This is a hexadecimal image which you can download from internet and paste it here as it is. And otherwise we want to show this arrow. You can use here plus as well if you want, and here you can use minus as well. So whichever works for you, you can use it that way. So in this case, I will just use these arrows, and after that I will concatenate it with categories. So once we do that, let's bring this category into row shelf as well, and you will see here these images along with the category description are shown. So now I will remove the category set. I don't want that, and I will hide the category, initial category dimension which we had, so I don't want that. I will hide it. So don't remove that because the actions are happening based on that. So now we see when we click on that, it works perfectly fine. We can drill down on a particular value in a dimension the way we want it. You can use the same thing if you want 3 or 4 levels of hierarchies. Then you can do the similar thing, but then you have to create multiple sets and multiple calculation to achieve that. So now moving on to the tip number 2. So in this tip number 2, I'm going to show how to show top n and bottom n values together using sets in one worksheet. So as you can see here, I am showing the profit values by customers, and I am showing the top n customers which have maximum number of profit and the bottom n customers which have least amount of profit. And I am using the parameters here where you can change the values the way you want it. By increasing the number, you can see top and top 15 in this case, and bottom I just want to see, let's say 6, and that way you can adjust the way you want it. So how we can do that? So first of all, I will create a bar chart which I have already created here with customers and the profit values, and then I want to create 2 parameters. One is for top n values, and here I will select the data type as an integer, display format just a number, and you can change the current value. If you want to keep it by default 10, you can do it that way. And I have selected the range from 1 to 100, and I will select OK. Same way I will do it for bottom n values, and exactly same way we will create the data type as an integer, and we will show top n. In this case I have selected 10 as a current value, and I have kept the range as 1 to 100 as well. So let's press OK, and after that I will create a set on customer name by just right clicking and creating a set. So in this case I have already created the top n and bottom n set, so I will edit the set and show you what I mean. So here by default when you open it you will go to the general window, but I want to go to top section, so I will select that, and I will select by field. I want to see the top value, so I will select top. And here, if you don't want to use a parameter, you don't want a dynamic, you can enter a static value as well. So in this case, I am selecting top and parameter, and the field, the measure I'm selecting is profit, and the aggregation is by sum. I will do the same thing for bottom end set, and here I have selected by field. I am going to show the bottom values based on the parameter value, and again selecting profit as a measure and sum as the aggregation. So click OK. So once we create both of them, I will select both of them, and then I will right click and say create a combined set. So once I do that, it will look something like this, where I am saying I want to see all the members in both the sets. And you can select any of these options based on what is your requirement. But in this particular example, I want to show top end and bottom end values together in one sheet. So that's why I'm using all the members in both sets. And once I press OK, I will bring this into filter shelf. And here you go. You can see top end and bottom end values together. And you can adjust this by showing the parameter, and you can give user the ability to change the parameter values and adjust the top end numbers the way they want it. So moving on to tip number 3. So here I'm going to show you how to show or visualize top end versus others. So for example, if I'm going to show top 10 customers out of 100 customers, and I want to see how those top 10 customers are compared to remaining 90 customers when grouped together. So this is an example. You can see here top 18 customer and all others are grouped into others. So how we can achieve that? So again, I will use the same example where I'm showing the customers by profit in the descending order. And first of all, here I will create a calculation which is top n versus other. Because we have already created the sets before, so I will say if any value in that set is selected in the top n set, then give me customer name, otherwise give me others. So when I select that, I will bring this calculation into row shelf, and you will see it here. All the customers in the top 10 order, where we have right now top 18, we are showing the customer name. For all other ones, we are showing others. So once we remove this customer name column, customer name dimension, we will see it like this. Now we can convert it into descending order, and you will see others is still at the top, which I don't want it that way. I want others to be at the bottom of the list. So in that case, I will simply bring the set which we are using in this case, customer name top end set. I will bring it into the row shelf. And once I do that, you will see others go at the bottom because that is out of the set. So it's at the bottom. Then I will simply go here and uncheck the show header. And you will see all these values are created here. And we can show the mark labels as well. So that way we can see what is the profit value for each one of them. And if we don't want to see profit, we want to see percentage of total, we can simply go to quick table calculation and select percentage of total, and then you can see it straightforward that what each bar is corresponding to percentage of total and what was the others contribution in that. So like in this case, 75% contributes to the others group, whereas the top 18s are like in this percentage. Now moving on to tip number 4, where we talk about how to create separate color legend per measure. So in this case, I have used subcategories where we are showing discount, profit, and sales for each one of them. So how we can show that in different color palettes. So for this, we will use the table subcategories and show all these dimensions. And first of all, let's try by dragging measure name into the color shelf. Once we do that, you will see all of these 3 different measures are colored in a different color. So if you want all of them, all of these subcategory values in same color for each dimension, you can do it this way. But I want it to be different, but then I want a divergent color palette for each of these subcategories. So I want different shades of blue in this, different shades of orange in this, or different shade of red in this. So how we can do that? So I will remove measure name from here. Instead of that, I will bring measure values into color shell. So you will see all of them are now in one color palette, which is this one. But again, I don't want it that way. I want it in three different color palettes. So what I will do, I will simply click on the drop down in the color measure value mark, and I will say use separate legends. Once I do that, you will see on the right hand side three different legends are created. So I can go into individual ones and select the colors the way I want it. Let's say I want the green for discount, and I want purple for profit, and for sales, let's say I want orange, and I press OK. You will see all the color palettes are applied to all these measures. Now in order to add rectangles on top of it, I will go into the mark shelf and change it to square, and you will see all of these are now highlighted in those color format. You can do more formatting by applying borders if you want, and you can adjust the opacity, and you can play around with it. So now moving on to tip number 5, how to create color legend per dimension. As you can see here, we have three different colors, blue, orange, and green for different categories, but under each categories, we have a different shades of blue, orange, and green as well. So how we can do that? Let's go to this sheet. So by default, when you create a bar chart for this particular scenario where I'm using category and subcategory, by default it will show you blue color. So in this case, I don't want blue color. What I can do is I can try to bring category into color shelf, and it will show me three different colors, but I want it subcategories to be in different shades as well, shades of blue or orange or red. So let's try to bring subcategory into the color shelf. And you will see that all of the subcategories are in different colors now, which is not what we want, right? So in order to achieve that, we will select category and subcategory together and bring it to the color shelf. And you will see different color palettes are assigned to both these dimensions together. So that's how we can achieve this. Now moving on to the next one, where we want to highlight the entire row based on a particular criteria. So in this case, we are showing the sales by category and subcategory, and I want to highlight all the rows where the sales are greater than 110,000. Let's say I want to change that number, and I want to highlight all the sales which are greater than 150,000. So I will change the number here and press OK, and you will see the number changed. The rows which are highlighting now is only for sales greater than 150,000. So what we need to do in this case is let's say we have a table, and in this table we are going to use these three fields, category, subcategory, and sales in this case. So based on the number of fields or number of columns we have, we need to create that many placeholder fields in the columns. For that, I will simply click on the columns and press 1. And once I do that, automatically you will see a bar is created from 0 to 1 with the axis from 0 to 2, right? So by default, it will show the aggregation as sum. So you can select sum, or you can minimum or maximum, whichever you want. So that doesn't matter in this case. So based on the number of columns, we need to create that many placeholder fields. So in this case, we have category, subcategory, and sales. So we will create it that way. And then we have to adjust the axis for all of them by clicking on each one of them. And when we do that, a pop-up window will appear, and there you can adjust the axis. And here you have to change the range to fixed, and it should be from 0 to 1. And in the title, you can remove the title and go to tick marks and select none for major and minor tick marks. We will do the same thing for all other x's, and we will simply remove these values. So now we have three different columns with three different bars, but all of them are showing the same number, which is sales. But we want to show categories, subcategories, and sales. So what we will do is we will simply go to each of these placeholder and change the text marks. So in this case, I will bring categories. In the second one, I will bring subcategories. And you will see here all of these are on the bar section. Now I will simply uncheck the show header for categories and subcategories, and you will see here all these bars are highlighted in blue. Now the next trick is we will simply create a calculated field, which we will in this case find the calculation which I have already created. I would simply go to color legend. I will right click it, and here I have select sum of sales is greater than equal to the parameter value which I have created it here. So I will simply press OK and bring this color legend into color shelf. And here you go, you can see it all highlighting, and I will bring the parameter in here and I can change the values, and you will see based on that the rows are highlighted. Now let's move on to tip number 7. Here I'm going to show you how to create a field header for a single measure in a table. So what I mean by that is, whenever we have a table and we just want to use one particular measure value, let's say in this case we want to bring sales, and you will see the header for sales is not there. So normally what we do is like simply bring in the dashboard the text object and put it on the header section. But in order to do that, we have to add another additional text object. But we don't want to do that. There is a simple trick which we can use. So whenever we have one particular measure, along with that we bring a second measure value, and you will see both of these measure values are now showing the header. Then we simply go to the filter shelf and edit the measure filter and remove the one which we don't need, and you will see the sales is showing at the top of the header as well. So that's as simple as that. Now let's move on to tip number 8. So how to move the field header at the top of the vertical axis chart. So you will see here by default, the behavior of Tableau is to show the headers, the field labels at the bottom of a vertical axis chart. So in order to move that to the top, you simply have to go to Analysis menu item, go to Table Layout, go to Advanced, and then we simply have to uncheck this box which says Show Innermost Level at bottom of the view when there is a vertical axis. So we uncheck that and press OK. You will see all the field labels are at the top now. Now let's move on to the next section where we are going to learn how to add field description using comments in default property. So what I meant by that is like whenever you hover over to these particular dimensions or measures or even the calculations, you can add these descriptions for each of these values by simply right clicking it and going to default properties and add a comment. And you can highlight it in a different color if you want to emphasize on some particular thing, or you can simply write a text. And even when you bring those fields into different marks and you hover over to that, it will give you the description of that particular field. So this is quite useful when multiple people are working on these dashboards and the person doesn't know what each an individual field means. So it is quite handy to provide this kind of data dictionary there, and it will be quite useful. If you are using a data management add-on pack, then you can add the description for each of these fields in the lineage section. So all those data dictionary and data description, when you add there, so they will come automatically into this particular section on the left hand side when you are using the published data sources. And whenever you hover over to each one of these dimensions or measures, you can see the description directly coming from the data management add-on lineage section. So if you guys don't have data management add-on section, then actually you can use this by right-clicking into each of these fields and adding the commands in the default properties. So that was tip number 9. Let's move on to tip number 10. So in this particular tip, I want to share the 4 different drop zones on the axis when you bring a second measure. So what I meant by that is, like with subcategories on the left hand side, we are showing the sales as a one measure. Now let's say I want to bring discount as another measure, second measure. There are four different drop zones where I can place this discount value. The first one is in here. You will see this line on the left hand side, and you will see the same thing on the right hand side if we go here. So when we place the measure, second measure, it will create a second chart either on the left hand side or on the right hand side. That's the first drop zone where we can put that one. The second one is when we drag it, you will see a square box here. When we put it on top of that, it will replace the sales with discount values. And then the third one is when we bring it here, you will see two rulers at the bottom. And when we place it here, it will create a combined axis chart. And then the last one is at the top. When we bring it here, you will see the black line here. When we leave it here, by dropping it, it will create a dual axis chart. So these are the four different drop zones on an axis when you want to bring a second measure. Now moving on to the next one, which is last but not the least, three different ways to calculate year-on-year growth. So in this, I am using sales and profit as the measures, and I am showing year, quarter, and month as the date field. So here in this case, I want to show year-on-year growth by sales. So the first and the simplest way is by simply going to the sales measure, clicking on this drop down, going to quick table calculation, and select year-on-year growth. And you will see here year-on-year growth is shown in percentage format. And let me bring the sales value in the measure values as well. And you can see here in December 2021, the sales were 96 grand. And in 2022, December, it's 83 grand. So there is a drop of 13.58%, so that you can see it clearly. So now the second option is to simply click on the sales value drop down and go to quick table calculation and select percentage difference. And when you do that, you will see it is showing us 29% decrease, which is not right. So why it is not right? Let's go and check it. Let's click on that drop down and go and see edit table calculation. And you will see here, by default, it's calculating using table down. But we want to calculate using specific dimension. And I want to see year-on-year growth. So I will uncheck quarter and month. Once I do that, you will see it's giving us the right year-on-year growth. Now let's bring the sales value again into the measure shelf. And let's look at the third option where we are going to use lookup value option. So in this case, I have created a calculated field where I am looking up the previous year, same month sales value. So in this case, I say look up for the previous 12th value for sum of sales. So what it means is, let's drag that into measure value as well. And you will see it here. It's giving us 96 grand 999, which is the value for December 2021, right? So that's the previous year, same value. So this year it was 83 grand and previous year value was 96 grand. So that way we can see both the values in one row. Then we simply need to create a calculation on year-on-year growth, and we will simply say sum of sales minus sum of previous year sales divided by sum of previous year sales. And we will simply press OK. And then let's bring that into measure shelf as well. And it will show in 1 and zeros because we have to change the formatting into percentage. So we will simply go here and change it to percentage. And you will see here, we will get again minus 13% year-on-year growth for December month. So these are the three different ways in which we can calculate year-on-year growth. So that's about all the tips and tricks which I shared in Sydney Tableau user group. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop me a message and I will try to answer all your questions as soon as possible. Thank you. See you next time.